And understanding these concepts doesn't just make you a little better at one or the other. It gives you a universal key, a master skill for navigating the most important and terrifying part of being human, which is connecting with other humans. So today, we're not just talking about getting a date or a job. We're talking about reverse engineering human connection itself. So let's start with a number, 1/10 of a second. According to Princeton psychologists, that's all it takes for someone to form a lasting impression of you just from your face. Not your resume, not your witty pickup lines, just a snapshot. That's where Snapchat came from. He said, "There's cow pies. Watch out." Hey, they can throw it. They can throw it because cow pies are actually very good for growth. So if you rub that into your scalp with a little bit of mayonnaise and a couple of uncooked eggs, you might actually be able to grow you some dreads. Smells the same too. Now, in the time it takes to blink, a judgment has been made about how trustworthy, competent, and likable you are. By the time you've said hello, the person across from you has already written the first draft of your story in their mind. And this happens in the boardroom and it happens at the bar. And if that doesn't terrify you, you're not paying attention. Actually, yes, first impressions are important, but what we're coming to understand right at this moment is that first appearance is more important than first impression because the first impression is first contact. Is the first contact is when they first see you, not when you first see them or when you first contact or communicate with them. It is when they first see you. And this is one of the reasons why I have told you guys plenty of times that you are a walking brand, you are a walking business. You are supposed to carry yourself the way you want to be perceived 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm always in a suit. You'll never see me not in a suit. You won't even come to my house unexpectedly and see me answer the door not in a suit. You will know me as the guy in the suit before anything else, the guy with the shades before anything else. Characteristics that define who I am is characteristics that will always be observed. Well, we're both right, Michael. I dress like a bum. Well, you do what you feel comfortable with because one of the things we're going to talk about later on is being yourself. But the fact is the observation of who you are must be carried all of the time. Imagine almost like we talk about the scripture a lot of the times, Job under the tree. He's being seen by people he doesn't know is watching while he does what he does. Then when he encounters people, people engage him favorably because when they observed him in his day-to-day operations, they respected and appreciated him, right? People who perform acts of kindness, random acts of kindness, the ones that are doing it not for the sake of publicity, but because they can and the other person needs it. Those people are seen by other people doing good deeds for strangers. As a result, they find themselves getting paid more money from other people so that they can use that money to take care of other people. Likewise, some guy's a dick in traffic. Then they walk into the room, they interact with somebody and find out that the person that they were being a dick to is related to somebody that's in the meeting that they're trying to negotiate with and they find themselves having a difficult time convincing someone else to buy their product because they're not favorable in that meeting. You have to understand that on first sight, soon as they see you, they've already decided, are they going to do business with you or not, before they even hear the pitch, before they even hear what you've got to offer. An actor or actress that shows up to a role, before they speak, they want to give you this part. That's why they're allowing you to audition. Sometimes they allow you to audition just so that they don't get out with discrimination, but they had no intention of picking you. But the point is that when they see that they want it, all you have to do is say these lines and you got the part. Because if we didn't want you, you would not have gotten the interview. Because the interview, especially with studio auditions, you have headshots and years of experience, and they read over the resumes and they want this person based on their headshots, based on their years of experience, and then they ask them to run a few lines, and if they run those lines well, they get accepted, or at least they get put in the finals. Michael says, and everyone still nods their heads to me. Well, of course, you're going to nod their head to you. You're 70 years old. The only time I put on a suit is weddings and funerals. Well, that's what most people do. That's what the average American typically has gotten so used to casual dress that casual dress gone all the way down to um, like white beaters and basketball shorts with socks and sandals, and they just basically what they would normally wear to bed. They would roll out of bed, put something on their feet so that they're not barefoot, and go to the store with that on. However, if you remember back in the 50s and 60s, back in the 20s and 30s, men would wear suits. Then when they were casual, their button down shirts might be open with a t shirt underneath, not exposing bare chest. Their suspenders might not be on their shoulders, it might be dangling across their waist, but they would still be casually semi dressed professionally, where it wouldn't take much for them to go back to looking like they were professional. Uh, they had nowadays everybody wears a t-shirt, or not everybody, most people wear a t-shirt, and that t-shirt is no different from the next t-shirt outside of the print that is posted on the t-shirt, and that's the average person. Now, likewise, individuals that carry themselves more professionally, you will see them with at least a button-down shirt, if not a polo shirt and some khaki pants. But your image is your image on a regular basis. Now, this is important because when these kids, the next generation, you guys are building your brand on social media, you want to put the idea, the highlight reel that you have a blast, you have keg stands, you have house parties, vacations, you have holidays, all of the funnest parts of your life, which, if you look at the dates of posting, might be 6 months apart from one another, but in a collage on your profile, it is nothing but drugs and alcohol and wild parties. You paint the picture of irresponsibility. Now, if you go to a job interview and you're trying to prove that you're responsible, and they look you up on social media and they find you, they're not going to like what they see. Now, on the other hand, if you had a profile that was up there of you closing big business deals, uh, community service work, your hobbies that are appropriate hobbies, exercise, travel, hiking, yoga, helping old ladies cross the street, stuff to that effect, and they look you up, they might see something more noble. You are prejudged before you walk into the room. And that's why I wanted to mention that real quick before we keep going. He said casual like pajamas. Man, hold on. They got these ladies real quick. Y'all, I'm not gonna say that I don't like looking at it. I'm just gonna say that it ain't right. Y'all be going to Victoria's Secret so that y'all can go buy some stuff. And when y'all put it on, some of y'all got like tops that are not supposed to be tops. and y'all match that with some jeans or some shorts, or y'all might have some bottoms that are not supposed to be seen as bottoms that are matched with like a halter top, or you take a shirt and then you tie it into a knot and up the. I'm just saying, like they be doing some stuff, and I'd be like, why is you even wearing it like that? That is supposed to be in the bedroom for like the honeymoon. That is not supposed to be a fashion statement to go to college. Is it go to a job interview with your crack pipe? But that's almost what it's like. Oh, hold on. He said go to the job interview with your crack pipe and then edible underwear. You got fact is both of those things can apply because they're not just going there with hypothetically a crack pipe. These young bucks are sitting in the interview with a freaking vape pen. If that's not the closest thing to a crack pipe, I don't know what is. They got to smoke during the interview, which also means that you're going to be smoking at your desk. And you're painting a bad picture of yourself. But we're gonna get into this, ladies and gentlemen, because we're gonna be talking about how this works. He said, "I'll eat my way to heaven." You go down. HR is gonna have a field day with those type of comments. And then, why would you even want to eat that though? Because if when you think about it, the type of girls that wear those types of clothes rode the bus here. They didn't even catch an Uber. So not only do you have them on it, you also have everything that society touched on it. Bro, you're tripping. Like, I don't eat off the floor. So even in that situation, I don't plan on doing the same thing. But we love to think that we're rational creatures who judge others on the content of their character. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. We judge each other on everything. We have people who lie to themselves on a regular basis and say that they do not judge people ever. And that is a lie. I don't even care if you come from a religious perspective and say, I don't judge people's sins. Bro, anybody who does not behave the way you would prefer them to behave, you have judged them. He's not going to act appropriate enough for my taste. He's not going to say things that I want him to say on this podcast. There's going to be judgment. It's a notable idea that we only hold people to their character. But first of all, when has a man ever judged a woman based on her character and not her body type? When has a woman ever judged a man based on his character and not his financial status? We don't do it, not especially not in the dating field. He said, if you're human, you have lied. Oh, of course. If you've got a pulse, you have lied this week. And if you say that you haven't, you just lied. I the only ones who would not be actively telling a lie would be the silent monks. Now, they're still liars because a lot of silent monks started being a monk tied from their past to change from past decisions and past catastrophic behavior. They may have become a better person, but who they used to be is what they're trying to get the furthest away from by being a monk. Very few are born into the practice. Very few choose to do it just because they admire it, which means that those who converted to being a silent monk are living a lie. Now, once they've mastered the lie, fantastic. They can self identify as a monk now and dismiss all past bad decisions as a, 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 a learning curve in life until the sheriff walks up on the doorstep serving a warrant looking for the government name of the silent monk that just started. Or even worse, the one that's been here for 10 years because there's an outstanding warrant from 20 years ago for a charge that doesn't have a statute of limitations on it. Then your past catches up with you. You also have to recognize that the misconception of only judging others on their character is also a complete fantasy. The reality is our brains are inherently lazy, efficient, obsessed machines. Cognitive shortcuts or heuristics to make sense of the world without burning too much energy. We try to analyze these things quickly. You guys do it when you come to the channel. Depending on what we're talking about, the moment that you popped in, you might think, oh, this is different. And that thought might allow you to give me a minute and a half to catch your attention. And if what I said caught your attention, you might linger for 3 to 5 minutes. And if I keep your attention, I might keep you for a half hour. Although I might come say something when you're popping in, and then you realize to yourself, this isn't what I was looking for this afternoon, and then immediately sweep away, where I would have had your attention for 15 to 30 seconds. And by the time you got through us joking around in the podcast, you're like, that's not what I came for. And you slide. You're analyzing the situation quickly, not wasting a lot of energy on it. And then I said something smart as soon as you left me. Man, I missed it. And the first impression is the mother of all shortcuts, which is why Michael said earlier, first impressions are very, very important. They are, but first appearance comes before first impression. And one of the reasons why I pointed that out is because in a business deal, you know about the business deal because you've seen it on paper, you've heard about it, somebody's talked about it, right? You want to get involved in the deal because you've heard about the benefits. You knew about it before you got to it. Now you're trying to negotiate your way into it. First impressions with a person, something about that person, because you're not right next to one another when you decide, I want to talk to the other person. They are across the room, down the street, across the hall. They are not within arm reach of you. And like how you want to talk to this person. And now that you're talking to this person, you're trying to get to know this person. You're trying to get a feel for what this person's got to offer. How do they sound? How do they communicate? If they're in a hurry to get somewhere, you're trying to figure out, can I schedule time with you where you can give me your undivided attention? That's called the first date. But something about that person from way over there, first sight, is what made you want to go over there and have a first encounter. So, first impression was of the other person when you saw them, right? Now, the first impression for them is when they notice you. And usually that's going to happen when they see you walking towards them. That's when they realize you are interested in them. Does the person make you feel comfortable? Actually, that is an excellent question. Oddly enough, the answer would be yes, and that's the reason why you're going over there. The feeling of comfort, a different feeling, a warm, wholesome feeling, a the kind of feeling that you've been missing for a long period of time. You might feel oddly energized because you're observing this person. Dopamine starts being released, as a result of your observation of that person. And that is what leads you to go over there and try to see if you can keep that feeling in your life for as long as possible, right? Now, this is driven by powerful bias known as the halo effect, first identified back in 1920 by psychologist Edwin Thorndike. Got to get his name right. The halo effect was when our overall impression of someone in one area bleeds over into our judgment of them in others. Totally unrelated that we're going to be judging them in. So you see this person, you take them out of the context of them standing right in front of you, and you put them in the context of y'all running across a beach, swinging on a swing, making snow angels, picking sunflowers out of an open field, all that stuff. Arousal, exactly. And if we see someone as attractive, we're unconsciously biased to them as more intelligent and more competent than they really are. Just think, nice handshake. This person is dependable. Think about how this plays out. And that's one of the reasons why they say always these days is that giving a strong handshake isn't always a good thing. Be, well, yeah, giving a strong hand, you're not trying to crush their hand, okay? And that's what we were taught back in the day is that you want to squeeze their hand. You want to give a firm grip like this connection matters, but not the kind of grip where you're trying to break their knuckles. So I've come to find that I get more of a positive reception when I give the handshake, give a squeeze, and then release it for a soft grip, where they know that there could have been more strength involved in this, but it's not there. Allowing them to either reciprocate with a strong grip or maintain a soft one. Now, this works for both men and women because the navigation of dominance is sometimes construed in the type of handshake that you give. When you're trying to dominate somebody, you want to overpower them with strength. And you also want to pivot the hand where your hand is on top. Sometimes you might want to pivot the hand where their hand is on top, and then you put your hand on top of their hand as over dominance. But if you're trying to maintain a level of mutual respect, you're keeping a neutral position and you're applying a neutral level of respect where you're adjusting to the level of strength that they're going to provide to you. He said, your opinion might change after you meet them. Your opinion always changes after you meet the other person. There is never a might about it. You see the person, what you thought, your unrealistic expectations are never met on first engagement. What happens is they either exceed your expectations, especially if your expectations are low, or they don't meet your expectations. In either situation, because of the halo effect, in addition to the honeymoon phase, you ignore either the red flags when they don't stack up, or you are overexcited about the fact that they over exceed your expectations. And because they exceed your expectations, if your list of 10 is here and they're up here, you consider them perfect. They're not perfect. It's just that whatever flaws they have is not in your list of things that they need to accomplish. And that's why they would be identified as a 10 because their flaws are not considered in that list of perfection that you're isolating and identifying, and that is okay. But you navigate past what differs them from what you thought they were. But he's right. You won't know until you interact with them. But you'll definitely find out very quickly in modern 2025 society, because some of these emails won't give you the time of day past the hand wave. Sometimes I got a boyfriend and I'm not interested before you can even explain to them exactly why you came over. Because not all the time you're looking for a hookup, and not all the time are you looking to take them out on a date. Sometimes you might actually just want instructions. There was one time I was walking down downtown Tampa and I just wanted to know the time, and certain people were running away because they thought I was going to ask them for money. But I'm like, no, I just want to know what time it is. You've got a watch. Just tell me what it says, and I'll keep moving. Some people are very defensive. Michael says, I'm going to look you in the eye, shake your hand with both my hands, and pull them close to me. And that is a power move. That right there, that's a power move. You hold their hand, you can move it either this way or this way, and then either couple it this way or couple it this way, and you're shaking it where you're bringing them in. And actually, there's some people who do that where they grab the hand and they bring them in like this, and they hold the hand like this, which closes in the communication zone, putting yourself into the other person's personal space. It's still a control tactic. It's still a control tactic. Makes them feel warm and welcome. No, it makes females might feel warm and welcoming in some situations, but a lot of fellas are uncomfortable with being closer to another man. Irony of that, because a lot of people believe that bringing someone in makes them feel comfortable, makes them feel, at home. There is this dynamic where men are not allowed to physically contact other people, because if we touch women, they'll try to put us in jail. And we only make physical contact with other men in violence. We rarely put ourselves in positions where we're hugging it out and stuff to that effect. There are cultural differences where greetings will have like cheek kissing and stuff like that. But here in Western culture, more often than not, we have like fist bumps now. We don't even do real handshakes. We used to have forearms where we used to shake hands like this, and we don't even have that anymore. We don't have like trusty, like, homeboy from way back in the day, 30-minute handshake kind of things. It isn't a bring it in and big hugs and stuff. It is usually like an occasional fist bump, and that's it. So that fist bump is a distance thing. So instead of the closer 3 to 5 foot scenario, you're now like 5 to 10 feet scenario, because you're fully extending your arm, they're fully extending their arm, and you're connecting to one another. And that is a further scenario. So people are subconsciously not used to being so close to somebody they don't know. So when you bring them in, they feel uncomfortable and awkward, not because of you, but because they're not used to being that close to someone else. Now, once that level of anxiety subsides, they're going to be excited about your type of greeting because they don't experience that anywhere else. But upon first contact, they're gonna be like, okay, that was weird. Almost like if you've ever watched the Wayne's brothers, and they like be all over the person, hugging them and everything like that. And on first engagement, the person is all like, what's going on? They just like freeze. And dude's all over him, messing up his toupee, got his shirt all untucked and everything like that. And then like the fifth or eighth time that it's happened, then they're like, oh yeah, what's going on? Bring it in, brother. It's a difference in dynamics. He said if she's a 10, I'll probably have to. Nah, that actually that's not the case. More often than not, if she's truly identified as a 10, more often than not, guys will walk away from her and not engage her at all, because they're going to feel like she's out of their league and that she won't approach them. And funny thing is that a woman that is closer to a 10 gets engaged less than a woman that's a 5 or a 6, because most men believe that that woman has had more contact and more engagement than she's willing to tolerate, and that this guy approaching her might be yet another rejection. So before they go for the rejection, they allow themselves to self reject and not approach. And that attractive 9.5, 10 woman would actually be more rejected by society than a woman that is like a 6 or a 7, an average woman, an overly attractive woman, not one that is scantily dressed, an overly attractive woman that would be socially appealing to most people would get less engagements. It's strange because intimidation of her beauty will prevent a lot of men from having the courage to go over and talk to her. And today's negotiations discussions will aid you in your ability to wrap your mind around uh, focusing on adding this person to your network, not necessarily trying to turn this person into an instant romantic partner, which takes the pressure off of your ability to meet new people. You say, oh, we give buddy hugs all the time. I like giving buddy hugs, but I don't give buddy hugs to strangers. I only shake hands with people I respect. I don't shake hands with everyone. I'm going to be honest with you. I might give you the people's eyebrow before I shake your hand. I might be one of those not Wayne's World, Wayne's brothers, like Sean and Marlon Wayne's. Oh yeah, 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 Wayne's World. Yeah, I remember what you talk about. The UPN show. But I might give you like the people's eyebrow. I might not even like touch your hand. I don't even do a lot of fist bumps. I might give you a nice little look up and down, like what's that hand for? If I don't have any respect for you, but if I respect you, then I will proactively shake your hand. So you actually have to earn physical contact from me. But if there's a lot of mutual admiration there would be hugging it out with people that I'm familiar with, people that I know, people that I have, like I said, higher levels of admiration and respect for. He said, I'm not worried about the relationship with her. Not too many people are. Men are less likely these days to give a shit about the relationship, which is why the less men are approaching women. But there are a lot of men, especially more than half of the channel, that is between 25 and 35 years old, where guys want to know, how do I talk to girls? How do I get them to respond to me? How do I get them to do something after the first date? And before we get halfway through this, first thing I'm going to tell you is stop giving a shit about that, because if you stop caring about whether or not there's a girl that's responding to your text messages, then you will stop stressing. And when you stop stressing, the anxiety stops showing. Some people show anxiety differently: profuse sweating, stuttering in their speech, lack of confidence, lack of eye contact, bad posture. There's a lot of things that reflect in your anxiety, in your shyness, in your fear to engage with somebody else. And you don't have this fear to engage with a person by engagement. You have fear of failure, of achieving a specific result that you were destined to accomplish before you met the person. And if you change that outcome, if you change the goal, you change the requirements. And if you change the requirements, you change the difficulty level. And that's when communication starts becoming less difficult. Take, for example, people who suck at public speaking. Well, people who suck at public speaking might also be camera shy. If you can run a podcast every day of the week, you can get over your camera shyness because you're standing in front of a camera every day. If you speak on a regular basis, you can get over your public speaking hurdles. If you talk in large crowds, you can get over that by you can get over public speaking by having conversations in large crowds. And that is how you work through some of your issues. He said, put her on your friends list. Nah, I'm not trying to put her on my friends list. I'm trying to put her in my Rolodex. I don't want to be on her friends list. I want her to be on my list of acquaintances that I'm going to reconnect with at a later date and time. And That's another thing about business negotiations. You find yourself a strong negotiator when you dictate the terms. So they're going to give you a day and time to connect. Doesn't matter what day and time that is. You're going to give them a different day and time that is more benefit to you so that you maintain control of this negotiation. If they're not willing to flex for that day and time, then they've lost your business. You maintain control over the conversation. They offer, you always propose a counter offer. By proposing a counter offer, they're going to still accept this deal on your terms. You maintain control of the situation. By allowing yourself to be her constituent, you are allowing yourself to be added to the list of candidates that she has to eventually evaluate. By adding her to your list, she will get in touch with, well, you will get in touch with her when you get ready. Now, I also do say put the ball in her court when it comes down to communication, where I will give her my number and allow her to communicate with me at her leisure for the specific fact that I'm not interested in anything other than the communication itself. So, me having a I have to get an extended SD card and put an extra half a terabyte of data on my cell phone to add all these phone numbers into my cell phone for all the people that I got a phone number from. You have to understand, I'm not wasting my energy on that. You have guys that will spend so much time and effort talking to the girl to get the number. Women understand that. They don't want to give out the number. You have some women that'll prefer to give you their Instagram account. I don't have an Instagram account. You have some that are willing to give you their social media handles so that you can friend them on social media, which puts distance between you because we met in person. So why am I connecting with you online? To me, that's a red flag. That's a deterrent. If I met you in person and I can't send you a text message or call you or send you an email from here, I'm okay with an email. I'm okay with an email. It's personal. But if I meet you in person and you redirect me to your social media handle, we'll never talk again. Because I don't check my social. I actually check my emails every day, and I've got 10 different emails. I check my emails every day. I check my emails before I check my text messages. But I do not log into my social media platforms. I log into this social media platform, but that's it. So if you were messaging me on a personal social media platform that I have not touched since college, we would never communicate. He said, for 1995, you can purchase this great book called How to Overcome Your Fears in Relationships by Vander and Sons. I got to get some sons in order to do that. But you do make a point. I could write a book about this. It's a dynamic that is less recognized and yes, less utilized. You got to think about how this is going to play out in dating. It's the profile photo, and we've talked about this on the channel multiple times. Where what's the right profile photo? And I gave you 5 different profile photos that you could put up there. Your regular profile shot, which is really just like the top half of you, just your face, your neck, some of your shoulders. So, ladies, all that cleavage in the photo, as a man, I'm going to tell you, most men want to see it, but that is not appropriate to show who you are. A full body photo, which shows confidence, but it is not a butt shot. You're not looking back at it. It's not nothing like that. It is you walking towards the camera and then 3 other photos that shows your hobbies and your likes. So if you like food, a photo of you sitting in front of a plate of food getting ready to eat. If you like to travel, a photo of you in a different country. If you have a certain hobby like canoeing, biking, running, racing, whatever it is, a photo of you performing that hobby. Those are the 5 photos that you need. So, ladies, you should never have your butt in the photo at all. If a man wants to see that, he needs to get to know you first and earn the ability to take a look at that. It should not just be advertised on your profile as a photo. Notice most men that are not models do not have, or bodybuilders, which is a form of model, and they would be showing their back. They would have the strong man pose and all of that stuff, and they would have that in there. But outside of that, they don't show all of their assets. You have the profile photo, you have the personal activities. Some men take photos with their resources. So, guy standing outside of his car, guy standing outside of his house, guy standing in front of his yacht, stuff like that. But I would recommend that you not take photos with your assets because people are only going to interact with you because of the assets in the photo. Women take photos on top of other men's cars, in other men's houses, on other men's yachts. And while it might be awesome that you were next to this car or in this house or on that boat, it makes you look like a gold digger. So, ladies, do not, if you don't own that car, don't take a photo in front of it. You really shouldn't take a photo in front of your car anyway, because at the same time, you have to understand about identity theft and stalkers. If they know what kind of car you drive, they can easily gain access to you. If they know what kind of house you live at, because they can take photos these days, scan them on the internet, and then a Zillow promotion can show what your house looks like, where it's at, how many rooms it's in, how many entrances is in there. So just for the interest of safety, you should not put your car, your house, or any type of personal identifiers in your photo. You should be taking a photo far away from any of your personal belongings so that they cannot connect your personal belongings to a advanced Google search and find out where you are, because you don't want to end up in the back of a van with no windows being shipped off to Pasco County and get involved in one of those Disney World scandals. He said, in simple terms, don't show your junk in the trunk. Exactly. Air tag your car. Exactly. That too. You're looking at well lit, confident photos that doesn't just say I'm attractive. It says I'm subconsciously uh, signaling health, success, and social proof. A lazy, poorly written bio doesn't just say I'm bad at writing. So a bio that doesn't have anything in it, or one phrase like a quote from some professional person, or just like 5 words that really doesn't say anything about that person. It signals a lack of effort. It also signals a fraudulent account, because if they don't have anything in their bio, if they don't have any expectations, where all of the quick questions that are asked are left blank, they didn't waste the time to fill in the detailed information, and that leads you to looking at a lack of effort, lack of intelligence, or that you're not serious about finding a partner. The entire online dating industry is valued at over $5.6 billion in 2025, and it is built on that 1/10 of a second judgment. In networking, the exact same rules apply, just with a different wardrobe. Your LinkedIn profile is your dating profile. According to LinkedIn's own data, profiles with a new photo receive 21 times more views and 9 times more connection requests. That blurry 10-year headshot, it's a professional equivalent of a bathroom selfie with a dirty mirror and clothes all over the place in the background. A headline that just says seeking opportunities, it's the same as a dating profile that says just seeing what's out there. It's passive, it lacks intent. A powerful LinkedIn headline that clearly states your value, helping SaaS companies scale their content marketing, is like a dating profile that says ambitious home cook looking for someone to share a new recipe with. It's specific, it's confident, and it gives the other person a clear reason to swipe right. But it goes way beyond digital. In a physical encounter, nonverbal cues can account for over 90% of a first impression. One study found that 55% of a first impression is based on appearance and body language, which is why I said at the beginning of the show that appearance, first appearance comes before first contact, while only 7% is based on the words that we actually say during the first contact, which is the reason why you can stumble through and stutter your way through a first encounter and still win over the person because the positive body language that was perceived and your appearance won you over. So even if they've got an 83% like on you, they like you more than they dislike you, where the 7% failure in your dialogue, or if you had a percentage of your dialogue was a failure, you would still be closer to 85 to 92% where they would still accept you. It as opposed to outright rejecting you just because you put your foot in your mouth because you were nervous about the first encounter. It's that it's built on your insecurities. A lot of it is going to be built on your insecurities. But think about this though. Most men, I don't know about the ladies because when I read some of the bios on social media from some of the ladies who put their profiles together, you have some women that genuinely put up all of the things that they like, which could be 3 paragraphs long. Very rarely putting in what they're looking for and what they're willing to do to get it, which I strongly believe in this day and age is something that women should put more effort into because the more mature man, the more intellectually and emotionally intelligent man, the more intellectually savvy guy, they're looking for what a woman brings to the table in a relationship. That is not her income and not her body. So the negotiation on a dating platform is going to be two things. What are you looking for from me so that I can determine if I want to accept this application versus what are you willing to do to get it? Now, from an appropriate context, if a woman that is looking for a successful, strong man that is confident and caring, she might like trips around the world and she might like small vacations and she might like small gifts of affection. However, what are you willing to do to get that? If she is a financially savvy investor, if she is a organized homemaker and she wants to come off of a career of some type of uh, whatever business idea that she has that generates additional revenue. If she believes in actively investing in her relationship and contributing to the growth of the financial success of the family. Those types of comments leads a man to believe, while I don't need your money, you will put the money in stocks, bonds, and other such investments where we would end up having more money to pay for the trips around the world that you want, the vacations that you're looking for. And that makes it easier for us to meet each other's expectations because you're willing to contribute to your own desires as opposed to putting that burden all on me. Likewise, think of it from the alternative. Men always talk about if they're going to put up a thick bio, they're always talking about what they are willing to do for the woman. I will support you. I will protect you. I will uh, put in effort to support your hobbies. I'll invest in your advancements in your careers. These you'll see these kind of things in a guy that is looking to invest in his woman. Women like, oh, okay, he's a very kind-hearted and generous man. He's willing to give to his woman this, that, and the third, being supportive, everything to that effect. But what men fail to do is explain exactly what they want to get for that. There's a dynamic. They're putting up all of these perks. It's like passing by a job that looks for an employee. They're talking about all of what you can benefit from working for this company, but not telling you what you have to do to get it, or vice versa. Going to a company and on the interview, first thing you do when you sit down is demand a upper middle management level salary without talking about exactly what you're bringing to the table to earn that amount of money. That's the um, disconnect that we're starting to have with our social media profiles. So recreating and curating those bios makes it better for you, because you find yourself in a position of not only voicing your expectations from the other person, but also providing clear information as to what you're looking for. And that disseminates the levels of insecurity that you might have and project higher levels of confidence and higher levels of non negotiable expectations for behavior. So let's break this down into pieces: the visual, the vibe, and the words. First, the visuals. And this isn't about being a supermodel or wearing a designer suit. Because as you can see, even right now, this is probably a 20-year-old shirt with a really snazzy tie from back in college. I just make it look good. It's about signaling respect. In dating, it means dressing in a way that shows you put thought into what you look like. And it says, this date is important to me. In networking, it's the same thing, but you're also not trying to dress in a way that projects I'm for sale or I'm easy. So you got to change from these gorilla fits, skin tight outfits, showing off all of your bare assets, skirts that are too short, tops that are too low, midsections that are overly exposed. That's not what it's about. You actually want to leave a lot above the knees and below the neck to the imagination, and demand that the other person earn the right to see all of the rest of that. It shouldn't just be accessible to anybody driving by in a car, where your attire doesn't just stop traffic, it causes crashes. Yeah, you can brag about that, but at the same time, the only desire that is being presented towards you is negative desire, and it's only based on lust, not based on admiration and mutual respect towards your capabilities and your skill set and your mindset. And with the way women fought for the ability to be respected on an equal platform based on their capabilities, not based on their body type, they would want to carry themselves in their attire to project their capabilities, not their body type. Think about that. Michael says the rite of passage to be young again. 2,000 years, they were asking the same question: what is love? And in the future, they also will be asking the same question. Well, the reason why they ask the same question is the reason why they're asking the same question is because love is a choice. You identify the feeling of desire and the longing for the person as love, but love is a conscious choice. You want to be with this person, and you don't feel right if you're not there. You want that person to give you attention, and you don't feel right if they don't. And you're willing to put up with anything that you got to put up with to have that person in your life giving you the attention that you desire from that person. And that's identified as love, but that's a conscious choice. So people who hate your jobs, you go to work every day dedicated to the cause, and you put up with whatever you got to put up with on that job. You show up on your days off, You sacrifice your personal life for the sake of that company. And that's a conscious choice equivalent to you love your job because the abuse that you put up with on that job is not necessary for you to make an honest salary. But you go there on a regular basis. You get stressed out unnecessarily on a regular basis. You leave the job frustrated on a regular basis just so that you can look forward to going back to it the next day. To the magnitude that some people that are watching the show right now can remember the last time that you had a dream that you were still at work, dreaming about your job. You could identify that as loving your job, but it's a conscious choice of dedication, devotion, and duty towards the job, which is the same conscious choice of dedication, devotion, and duty to the other person that you're in a relationship with or that you would want to be in a relationship with. Because guys that are in a friend zone have that same dedication, devotion, and duty to a girl that doesn't want him. So the closest he can get to her is being her best friend, strictly platonic, but his emotional attachment to her still has a desire to have more than just an emotional attachment, which is why I say don't go into the friend zone. Most people hate going to work. No, most people say they hate going to work because if you hated going to work, your ass wouldn't go. If you really didn't want to do that, you wouldn't. Take this for example: adult freelance workers. You can't tell me that they don't want to be standing out there because if you really wanted to get you a job at a McDonald's or a Wendy's or a Walmart as a door greeter, you could. But the money you get from being an adult freelancer is far more in quantity, far less effort than the quantity of time that it would take for you to make the same amount of money from an hourly wage job where you're stacking boxes or scanning people's groceries or walking people's stuff to the car like Publix. Think about exotic dancers, strippers, call girls to shake you behind in the middle of a room full of thirsty men. The money that you make off of that is sometimes more money than you would make off of a regular 9 to 5 job. They choose that occupation, probably because they don't have the motivation or the confidence to get a different type of occupation. But people don't really hate going to work. They hate how they're being treated at work, but they don't hate going to work. You do it because of bills. No, you do it because you want to. Because you can say fuck this job and fuck these bills and walk off the job and go look for another job. You could find another job while you're still working for this company and then quit this job because you got hired on a new job. You don't stay at the same place that you don't like for 10 or 15 years because you need the money. You stay there because you're familiar with it, you've dedicated yourself to it, you're devoted to it. They might give you promotion down the line. And how much does John get? It doesn't matter. John chose to show up. And you got to think about this too. Showing up to an event in wrinkled clothes doesn't just look sloppy. It signals you don't take the opportunity or the people you're meeting seriously. It's a visual form of disrespect. Your body language is a huge part of this. Studies have shown that up to 55% of communication during an interview is nonverbal. While the initial claims about power posing, changing your hormones have faced challenges, the core idea that open, expansive postures can make you feel more powerful and be perceived that way still holds up. You got to dress for success. So power poses, like being able to have your arms more open instead of insecure, being able to put your hands together instead of fondling and being all insecure, shoulders back, chest out, head up is a lot more open than slouching. Actually gives you better posture, reduces back pain. Instead of sagging down into the seat with the lack of concern for life, sitting in an upright position gives you better posture, but it also gives you better oxygen and better airways, gives you the ability to better communicate. One of the power plays that they do in business meetings is that they will have the chair of the boss in a higher position than the other people in the room to make the people feel small, because when they sit down, they're looking up at the person that is in authority, which is why in a courtroom, the judge is at a higher level than everyone else in the room, because you are supposed to perceive that person as a visually higher authority because they sit higher than you do. It doesn't happen that way in colleges because you have the professor on the ground floor and bleachers, but that is more of a concert scenario where the further you are away from the teacher, the more prestigious the teacher is perceived by you, because that many people are dedicated to this location, and that person holds a higher group of people's attention. He said, be attentive and lean towards them. You can lean towards a person, yes, like leaning forward like this and showing that you're really interested and engaged, which actually helps if you were leaned back originally. Notice, see that? Neutrality. You lean back originally. That was a natural reaction, but I just noticed that I did it. You lean back initially. Your head's up, you're focused, your shoulders are as far back as you can with the kind of chair that you're sitting in. Your arms are spread or wide, utilizing the armrest. You might have a little bit of a open legs with crossed ankles so that you're showing that, or plant your feet, whatever, but showing that you are, kind of interested in the situation. If at some point something catches your attention or you didn't hear something, you can lean forward to show interest in that scenario, in that topic. You don't have to linger for it. You can lean forward to show interest in that topic. But body language indicates that if somebody's talking about something and then you lean back, you're showing a lack of interest. You could just have a back problem. But because you was once in the conversation physically and then you are now out of the conversation physically, body language tells a lot. Eye contact and a smile. Now, eye contact is a very, very difficult thing that I have to deal with because of the prescription glasses. So never will I ever be in a conversation with somebody that I'm voluntarily taking these glasses off so that I can have a conversation with them in a business meeting or a consultation of some sort, because I can't see you without it. So typically at the top of the conversation, it has to be discussed that I am not medically capable of taking the glasses off. As long as I make that particular statement that I am medically incapable of removing these glasses for this conversation, they will not inquire any further as to why I'm wearing the glasses. There's a medical reason for it. They're curious, but they don't want to dwell too far into it, which is uh, a HIPAA violation. Either way, though, while they will allow you to maintain the glasses, the fact that you are not showing uh, eye contact is still going to be perceived as a lack of confidence. It's going to be a level of suspicion, and you're going to have to put more effort into earning a level of mutual respect from this individual, because they cannot tell the genuineness of your dialogue based on eye contact because they can't see your eyes. Um, when you walk into a room, are your shoulders slumped and arms crossed? Because if you got one of these things going on, you're not giving off a good look. Or are they back and your posture open? A closed off posture signals defensiveness. An open signals confidence and a willingness to engage, which is irony that when somebody walks up, you'll see this a lot on TVs. When they walk up and they're like arms out Palms facing the other person, openness, bring it in, right? Sometimes they have the hands down, palms open, bring it in. In situations where the arms are straight down, fists clenched, defensiveness. Hands in the pockets, insecurity. You see those individuals that have like their hands behind their backs, where their arms are crossed. It puts their chest out more, but there is still while there's a little bit of a sage expression from that, there's still a little bit of secrecy involved in that particular pose. So um, it's that particular pose is going to come from like an elite looking down on the apprentice kind of scenario. Doesn't always go over well, but it can get you past a whole lot better than having your hands in your pockets or having your arms crossed or um, having your fist clenched or something to that effect. But you got to remember that these are universal languages. The next is going to be the vibe. Now, this is the energy that you project. It's the difference between someone who scans a room like a predator looking for a target or a security guard looking for a threat versus someone who enters with a relaxed, curious demeanor. The single biggest mistake people make in both worlds is leading with desperation. Not much that we can do about that, but that's what it is. That what can you do for me vibe is a repellent. The I need a job or I need a date or I need this person to fill the void in my life energy makes people instinctively pull away. Desperately needing a person to fulfill you will trigger more people to remove themselves from your position than not giving a shit if they were there or not, being honest. The most attractive vibe in any context is confidence mixed with a little curiosity. Confidence says that I have value. Curiosity says that I'm interested in the value that you have. It's not a pull and it's not a push. It's being genuinely interested in the other person. Think about the best conversations you've ever had. They weren't interrogations, they were explorations. You can cultivate this vibe by shifting your internal focus from what do they think of me to who are they. This simple mental flip is a superpower and it takes pressure off of you and puts your attention onto them, which is very magnetic. How you doing, mixed martial arts? Good to see you again. We're over here talking about networking today. We're talking about using networking skills in dating practice. So hopefully you enjoy. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe as you pop in. Hit that thumbs up on the YouTube channel, and if you're watching us on Twitch or Twitter, hit that like button there, and also take the time to follow the channel. He says, I have maybe 5 good conversations a year. That is above average, I think, for men, which is very good. That's very good. Um, I consider any conversation that either builds a ally, doesn't have to be a connection, it could be an ally, or any conversation that doesn't end in conflict, a good conversation. But any conversation that started off as a short greeting and ended up being a 20, 30 minute back and forth communication where you guys were enjoying each other company is considered a good conversation. I believe most people lack critical thinking skills, and I struggle with my own ego to not get angry at that. Well, again, your level of expectations, your demand for somebody to meet your expectations triggers your frustration. If you're not focused on their critical thinking skills, you are focused on the actual connection that you're having with this person, or if you're weeding out people who have poor communication skills or poor critical thinking skills. If the person doesn't meet your expectation, you have dodged a bullet, because instead of just becoming invested in that person and then they fail you, you would instead be able to recognize this person doesn't meet my criteria and move on to the next person. You're not frustrated that they didn't meet your expectations because you wasn't expecting them to. You evaluated them to see if they met your expectations. And if they don't, that's not a person you want to add to your network. So that's a great point. I should adjust my expectations. Well, it's not just adjusting your expectations. You should adjust your demand for your expectations. Your expectations should be non negotiable expectations to a degree, but they also should be realistic. And just because the other person does not meet your expectations should not frustrate you. The reason why it frustrates you is because you deeply want them to meet your expectations. You wish that they would meet your expectations. You hope that they would meet your expectations. And if they don't, the disappointment, the sadness develops into anger. That's why you get pissed off. It's not just an ego, it's a deep seated desire that you can find people that meet your expectations. It doesn't mean that you need to lower your expectations. You need to change your demand that they meet it. For example, Job Corps, not even Job Corps, but let's think about Job Corps where they have the a group of companies in this room. Anybody who wants a job can apply. We pitch it to everybody. We don't care if you don't apply. But if you apply, you must meet our expectations. So we'll tell you what our expectations are before you apply. We'll ask you before you waste our paper filling out the application, do you think you meet our expectations? And then if you do, then apply. The same way when you apply for an apartment complex. What are your expectations? Because if I don't think I meet your expectations, I'm not going to pay the non refundable application fee just to get denied. So the fact is that you're not trying to demand that they meet your expectations. You're just not worried about it if they don't. The sadness is for sure present. That is another great point. Well, once you start thinking about how anger and depression are secondary emotions, and sadness, which is going to come from disappointment, is the thing that triggers the anger and the depression. Depression is inward, suppressed sadness, and anger is outward, projected sadness. Then you recognize that people that get pissed off are people that are um, negatively impacted. They're sad about it. Their feelings are hurt. They're experiencing pain right now, emotional pain right now, and they are responding to that pain with aggression. That road rage is anger because their feelings got hurt because your car got in front of them in the interstate. And instead of them moving their car and continuing their journey, now they are proactively expressing that anger by chasing you down in a car, blowing the horn, giving you the middle finger, cursing at you at the traffic light because their feelings got hurt that your car overtook their car, making them inherently feel inferior to you, inferior to your driving skills. It triggers deep-seated sadness that I struggle to connect with people. It this triggers a lot of people have this feeling. A lot of people have this feeling. They express it in different ways, but a lot of people have this feeling. Now, finally, we have the words. What do you actually say? Most people lead conversations with boring, factual exchanges. What do you do for a living? Where you're from? What's your favorite whatever? Whether it's favorite food, favorite hobby, favorite activity, favorite color, you know, basic, really insignificant situations. Because 20 years down the line, I'm going to recognize what your favorite color is because that's the thing that you buy the most. You'll typically see a person's favorite color is the color that they wear more often than any other color. A person's favorite food is the type of food that they would eat more often than anything else, or the type of food that they crave when they don't have the accessibility to eat that food. You will see a person's hobbies is things that they put time towards, the things that they enjoy doing, even if they don't have time to do it that often. Favorite movies is ones that they will watch over and over and over again, even though they've already seen it 17 times already. So you learn these things over time. What do they do for a living? He said, maybe you need to get out more. He said, your favorite color is blue. Actually, it's purple. Actually, it's purple. Um, it's purple for multiple reasons. One, because blue and red makes purple. And uh, on a primal level, blue is one of my favorite colors, but purple emits royalty, and purple is the color of blood inside of the body before it is exposed to the lights. So, there's a whole like psychological thing behind, and ironically, because it's more of a royal style color. But you don't see me wear purple that often on the show because I have worn out all of my purple attire, so I have to buy new purple stuff. I'm wearing blues, browns, greens because these are the colors that I wore the least. And then also, I don't wear the same outfit for the podcast that I wore during the day. So if I wore purple earlier today, I'm not wearing purple during the podcast. So you're not going to be able to say, I seen you earlier today. I remember that outfit. No, you didn't. Because what I wore earlier today, I took off before this show, which is another reason why I come late. He said, oh, good icebreaker is to ask them what they think about the Jews because that will keep them on their toes. Here we go. See, I told you it was purple. No, mixed martial arts. That is not going to be a good icebreaker. Um, First and foremost, while you're sliding in a few um, inappropriate comments there, uh, a good icebreaker would be communicating with someone about uh, what their goals and ambitions are in life. And if you're in a dating scenario and you were trying to navigate your way into their life, you wouldn't pertain the question to explicitly include you. But if you're trying to figure out what this person's 20-year plan is, what goals and ambitions that they're aspiring to at this point in their life, then you will be trying to figure out how would they be able to navigate a romantic relationship while still pursuing those goals. The way they answer those two types of questions leads you to understand their ability to have critical thinking skills, their plan that they've already got in motion to lead to whatever levels of success that they're trying to achieve, and whether or not they're even willing to compromise for a relationship to meet the demands of the relationship and meet the demands of their goals. For example, a woman that wants to be the CEO of an international company, if she has a demand that is 10 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week, no days off, she doesn't have much time to be the mother of a child. what would her goal be if she wanted to be the mother of a child? How would she achieve that goal? Well, one or two things would have to happen. She would either have to bear the child and have limited exposure to the child in order to maintain that demand for her job, or she would have to reduce her work hours so that she could spend more time with the kid. Same thing with the man. Let's take, for example, if a guy, uh, if a guy wanted to be in a romantic relationship, but let's say that he's a doctor on call, uh, 18-hour shifts, very few days off. How does he navigate that relationship? They always try, but truth be told, the job comes first. Now, since the job comes first for him, the woman that he's dating is going to have to recognize that she is not going to be his priority. She will be his second priority at best, third priority if the children come before her. So now she has to determine, since his job comes first, does she want to be number two in his life? It's a, what do you mean? A few inappropriate comments. It was just that one. Yeah, but that was like a foul. You gotta you gotta strike at the ball at the same time. How would I start a conversation with a guy? See, now this is why I said a few, because you do that every time. One comment is going to be about the Jews, and the next comment is going to be about gays, and I'm always like, he does this every time. So you're asking, how would I start a conversation with a gay guy who I have never spoken to before? I'm not trolling. I am being genuine. Seriously, the same community. The reason why I have not talked about homosexual engagements versus heterosexual engagements is not because I have a problem with them. It's because the communication is the same. A guy would approach another guy with the same intent that a guy would approach a female with, or a female would approach another female with, because the communication is going to be the same. You're going to present yourself with confidence. You're going to interact with the person with the intent to get to know what this person is about, which means that whether you're a guy or not, for example, just like I said about the guy dedicated to their job versus the girl that was dedicated to her job. If you've got two guys that are trying to get to know each other and they're potentially going to date one another, how do you interact with one another and still pursue your goals? That is a very good icebreaker. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're getting into, because the goal is to find out, how do I fit into your current operation if I want to fit into your current operation. Now, that does not have a sexual preference dynamic. That is a uniform scenario. You do it the same way. He said you're not in timeout yet. The being gay isn't special. Okay, it's treated differently. It's ostracized by our society, even though it's more widely accepted and on every TV and cartoon in modern times. But there's no difference between having affection for somebody of the same sex as there is having affection with somebody of the opposite sex, outside of the inability to reproduce naturally inside of the relationship. Because you can have two guys and one guy get a girl pregnant naturally and have a birth outside of the relationship, and you can have two girls and one girl get pregnant naturally with a birth from outside of the relationship, or you can adopt, or you can do in vitro, or you can get a surrogate, but the two people in the relationship would not be able to create their own child with each other naturally. That's the only difference between a homosexual relationship or a heterosexual relationship. But the way you communicate with each other is going to be the same way two guys that are best friends that would communicate, two girls that are best friends that are communicating in a platonic situation. The only difference between gay love versus a bromance or the sisterhood is the fact there's no sexual chemistry between you. There's no physical contact between you two in an intimate fashion, but the communication is still the same. Is that I'm being genuine this time. I like this guy at the gym. You told me about that guy at the gym, and you ain't never went over there and talked to that guy. So if you go over there, and I know a lot of people who go to the gym, they want to work out, They don't want to be that person that engages the person during their workout for something that's not workout related. And I'm just going to tell all people right now, if you have a gym crush, one thing you need to do, work into their workout, period. Make the engagement with that person about working out. Then, after the workout, after you guys have checked out, y'all finished with shower time, y'all are dressed up, y'all are in the parking lot. Then, in the parking lot, after several weeks of enjoying working out together, and because sometimes people talk while they work out, after that, then you can see if they would be interested in doing a healthy activity outside of the gym. Since they're a health and fitness individual, you would ask somebody that's working out, hey, I was thinking about going to this yoga class, and then go do that. He said, I think I might be bisexual. He said, not a formula. You're either in there or you're not, bro. Is there like a step by step formula that you may have to introduce yourself to someone you want to pursue romantically? It's not a formula. But what we're going through right now today is well, first of all, you have to carry yourself presentable. That's the formula. You have to carry yourself presentable. You have to stop being needy and really interact with the person for the sake of finding out who that person is. You can find out what they can do for you, but you want to more so find out what they need done. So, because in a business negotiation, when you're networking, you are trying to be an asset to the other person. It's not a selfish desire to collect all of the people that you can collect. It is a passive behavior where your goal is to benefit them, and their dedication to you because they benefit from you is going to be how you have a network. Now, the secondary expectation is to try to find somebody that you actually can benefit from to some degree. Now, if you already know what gaps you have in your life that need to be filled in, like a football team knows which positions they need to fill in their roster, you're not going to recruit that player because you need a player on your team. You're recruiting that player because that player would be good on your team, and you are trying to help that player become successful. It's mutuality, mutual success. Or you could just walk up to them and ask, wow. All right, Michael. All right, Michael. I'm a, I'm gonna go ahead and let that one stay in there because I mean, he kind of threw a wrench in the whole discussion when he did that anyway. I don't want to be disrespectful to him, Michael. Well, when you prioritize your sexual preference in the situation, you are in fact being disrespectful, not to us in the podcast intentionally, but to the other person. Because does he in fact have to be gay in order for you to like him? Does he have to be gay in order for you to talk to him? If the answer is no, does it matter if he's gay? He could be a good male friend. He could be a buddy that you work out with. But prioritizing him being gay is the same way a he said I'm gonna time out is the same way a a guy would be prioritizing the girl that he's communicating with into her being his girlfriend. And women pick that up. And when people feel like you're trying to put them into a box that they're not ready to be in, that's too much commitment, that's too much responsibility, they typically retreat. See, I couldn't help it. Hey, I couldn't stop it, bro. I was like, I'm sitting over here like that would have been the comment that I would have said if the three of us would have been talking in person. So I just let it go. Because I'm no longer the black sheep. No, 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 no. You are still the blackest sheep in the black sheep group. Michael offset his four inappropriate comments a week with about 3 hours worth of positive communication. Doesn't make it right. It just means that he does make up for it by positively contributing to the communication with a healthy dialogue that won't have the children's parents trying to flag the account. Now let's talk about these words, because we have conversational equivalents to plain toast when people are just asking, what do you do? What do you like? What's your favorite color? Stuff like that. He said, go sit at the kids' table. He said, not good for me to have straight guy friends who I am really attracted to. Why not? What's we're gonna get on this communication thing in a second. What's wrong with having straight guy friends that you're attracted to? Because you're not at the so you're not mentally at the point to socialize with other human beings. Because a guy will socialize with a female. It is not good for a any person to be in the friend zone with a person that they have strong feelings for. However, we lust for a lot of individuals, and that lust does not have to dictate whether or not we're capable of having a platonic engagement with other people. The lust will fade. And once the lust fades, you might still have a genuine emotional connection on a platonic level with a person that you originally had physical attraction to that has now manifested into genuine admiration. And that could be your bro for the rest of your life. So I don't see why you would set those types of limitations. Well, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to say that not having straight guy friends that you are really attracted to is like me saying that I'm not going to socialize with any woman that I might be physically attracted to because I don't want to not be able to have physical contact with that female. That's not true. Back in college, I had 13 women that was attracted to that I had in my collection on a regular basis that I kept as strictly platonic, with the exception of one. And the fact was that I got the emotional fulfillment that I could utilize while I were engaging each one of these women based on their availability that was in line with my schedule, and I was able to always have somebody accompany me no matter where I went because each one of these women benefited from me because I was helping them get through college by showing them, teaching them how to do what they do, which made me a fantastic teacher back in college. But I also was able to build a higher network because I was one of very few guys on campus that had 13 women willing to voluntarily meet me in the middle of a public place and interact with me for 8 to 12 hours out of the day or follow me to different events where I brought all the girls to the party. So it it helped with my persona in college, but it as far as seeking a romantic partnership, it wasn't that wasn't my goal. That wasn't my goal. Being helpful to those individuals so that they could succeed in college while I was succeeding in college was my goal. That led me to have a lot of female friends, not because I wanted a relationship from them, but because we benefited from one another. It also helped me get a lot of free food because since they knew that I had a group of individuals that was eating with me, I could get 13 different plates of food and bring it to the table where everybody's supposed to get one plate. I could get 13 plates, and then we could just exchange what all we wanted off of it. So we all got more portions of the same thing, which actually benefited me on that note. Then each one of the different 13 girls had the capabilities of notifying me when there was events in different areas of the campus that they were involved in, which also helped me with getting into student council. So they were assets more than liabilities. I'm not talking about cordial conversations or casual friendships. I'm talking about a close friend. But you get a close friend from cordial conversations and casual friendships. You don't start as close friends. You don't start with best friends for life. He said, sex ed teacher. With one of them I was, but the rest of them said not so said, I think you may have misunderstood what I meant. No, 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 no. I completely understand what you mean. You're not looking for the response that I gave you, but I completely understand what you mean. The fact is that you're not engaging the individual with the expectation of turning them into a romantic partner or turning them into a close friend off the bat. If you're attracted to the person, that's going to be what drives you to engage that person. But if they have to be gay in order for you to engage that person, you're now creating a bias, which prevents you from finding the right person for you. You have to be able to engage people just because they're people, just because they are interesting, just because they caught your attention. And then because they caught your attention, you get to explore who they are so that you can determine if you're going to keep that person in your network. The people that you keep in your network are people that will go from being strangers to being casual and cordial friends. Those casual and cordial friends will then eventually manifest into close friends. Those close friends will eventually manifest into lifelong friends, family style relationships, blood brother style connections. But it starts with that initial engagement. Something about them made you stop and talk to them. That's where it all starts. If you have a predetermined expectation out of that first encounter, not just engage them for the sake of engaging them, then you're not destined to succeed. I got a buddy of mine. I actually talked to him right before the show. He wants me to do an interview with him so that he can get this job in this insurance gig. Sure, why not? As long as I'm not going to spend any money. I met him in college. When I met him in college, he needed some school supplies and some school shoes, and I got it for him. Since then, we have had a 15-year relationship where he and I communicate on a regular basis. He's helped me sometimes, I've helped him sometimes, but we started because I seen him, he needed something, and I got it for him. That's where we started. We didn't start with, I want a friend. I had plenty of people because I was in college and I had 13 women surrounding me. So having a male guy that I was like, oh, he could use some better shoes, he could use some school supplies, and I get it for him. I didn't need him in that moment, but I benefited from him throughout the time that we engaged one another. So it's not about initial contact having a dedicated outcome. It's about the initial contact being exactly that, the initial contact. That's what this whole episode is about today. But he said, okay, so people who have higher IQ than their peers, most dumb people think smart people are weird. No, that's actually true. People who are intimidated by the level of intelligence of somebody else is going to feel uncomfortable around that person and they're going to identify that person as weird, a nerd, a dork. But the fact is that people with a lower IQ and less critical thinking skills are going to be more reliant on that nerd, that dork, that smart person when they aren't able to rationalize how to get through the problem, whether it's a math problem, whether it's a schoolwork assignment, or it's a real life scenario. So it is not about achieving an ulterior motive because that ulterior motive is what sullies the engagement to begin with. Because all of your questions and comments are going to be strategically directed towards that ulterior motive. If the goal is to get somebody to spend money, all of your communication is going to be leading them to opening their wallet and giving you some money, opening their Apple Pay and giving you some money. If the goal is for me to get people to join my membership and donate money, then almost every 5 or 20 minutes, I'm going to be reminding you that you can give me money. But if the goal is for me to make you a better person, and I'm going to tell you every day that my goal here is to make you a better person. So whether or not you take the advice and whether or not you give me money from the advice has absolutely nothing to do with me, because my goal was to provide you with information to make you a better person. Now, if you become a better person because you take my advice, fantastic, I've achieved my goal. But if you don't want my advice, or if you don't take my advice, and if you end up not becoming a better person because you didn't take my advice, you were not worth the information that I had provided, which ultimately means I dodged a bullet, because I would have been wasting so much effort trying to give advice to somebody who didn't want it, who didn't need it. And then I would have failed with improving somebody else's life because they didn't want to improve their lives. That's the difference. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What I'm saying is that if I am looking for a romantic relationship, I am going to target people who may be attracted to someone of the same sex, is what I'm saying. Right. But you don't know what they're attracted to until you go over there and engage them. So you're going to be attracted to this person. You're going to go over there and you're going to communicate with them. And then, if in the event that you guys have common ground with one another, you can progress that into a romantic relationship. But if that person is still an interesting person, and that person is also not interested in a sexual relationship with you, it doesn't mean that that person cannot be valuable to you. For example, I, interested in women, could be looking for a romantic partner. You engage me for the exact same situation. I find out that you have a skill set that I can benefit from. I could still be a friend of yours with a platonic guaranteed expectation, even though your personal preference was not what I was looking for when I was socializing with other people, because it is not what you wanted when you engage that person. It is what you get out of the engagement. So if I'm looking for a friendship in general, then I would speak to all people to increase my odds of making friends. But if you engage all people with the expectation of meeting new people, you will make more friends. And the more friends you make, the better opportunity that whatever friend that turns into a romantic relationship will be a more solid foundation. So if you curate your social interactions to only finding hookups, you will superficially find hookups. It'll take a while, but if you are interacting with all people just to expand your network, out of that network, you will turn into some good friends. Out of some of those good friends, you might find romantic partners. Out of those romantic partners that are also friends, you will find a stronger relationship. So just focusing on one thing clouds your tunnel vision, clouds your judgment from all possible opportunities. He says you have to have a conversation or you're a stalker. Make a decision. That isn't always true, though. How not? You have to interact with the other person, especially because you are looking for a same sex relationship. You have to communicate with that other person to find out if that person is even interested in it. Because no person in the LGBTQ community walks around with a gay pride shirt on that says, I'm only interested in same sex encounters. No one does that. You can't tell most homosexual people from heterosexual people. You find out upon engagement. So, you specifically looking for homosexual engagements might limit your communication to only talking to men. But all of the positive engagements you could have gotten from women who could have introduced you to a man that would have liked you, you're missing out on that. Your network isn't limited to what the one person that you're talking to can do for you. It is expanded to the network that they have. So if the person that you're looking for might be your friend's brother, the fact that you have a three-ring friend network allows you to meet the man that you wanted through your connections, still requiring you to talk to the friend and talk to the friend's friend before you get introduced to the guy that becomes the boyfriend. It still requires you to talk to everybody. There's no excuse. It says some guys are more easy to tell, or use performative attire to tell others of their sexual preferences. And some guys that have those preferences, they're not even in your neighborhood. And the person that's your homie might make a phone call and get that person into your neighborhood so that the person that you're looking for is found through mutual acquaintances, mutual friends. And actually, those types of engagements are more successful than a random blind date occurrence. Because if your friend knows you, knows your likes and dislikes, and your friend knows this other person, and they know that person's likes and dislikes, and they know that you two will get along together just fine, then that means that the girl that you met at the gym could introduce you to her friend's brother who also barks up the same tree you do. So that still means that you got to talk to people that you're not interested in a relationship with so that somebody might introduce you to somebody who is interested in a relationship with you. There's no reason why you can't network to get what you're looking for if you stop having tunnel vision for your ulterior motives. But because you have ulterior motives, that's why you're not successful. If you stop with the ulterior motives, you will end up with what you're looking for in the long run. If I'm looking for a certain type of person that would take my personality, my higher level of intelligence, my podcasting style, my abilities to communicate, my expectations, that person might have seen my podcast for the last few years, and then when we come across one another in person, that person already knows what I'm looking for. I would have been talking to millions of people for years, and then when I walk up on that one person, she knows me because she followed my channel, and that person will be the exact person that I'm looking for through mass social media networking. He said, okay, that makes sense. Thank you for explaining it. My own ego and wanting to be right clouded my ability to fully understand you, but I hear you now. Oh, no, I completely understand that. So, how do you think he's bisexual? He's not. He's not. You got to understand sometimes it's a choice, sometimes it's just an undisclosed desire. Some theories indicate that homosexuality comes from childhood trauma and abuse. Um, so back in the day when they were doing sex changes at birth and then feeding the people a bunch of hormones, the conflict in the forced gender description from the parents leads some individuals to have an identity crisis as an adult because their genetic attraction to the what would have been the opposite sex that they would have grown naturally ends up being conflicted by the chosen identity that the parents chose at birth, and that could lead to some levels of transgender or homosexuality thing based on scientific and sociological history. But just oh, I like everything with the pulse. You're just a very lustful individual. It doesn't necessarily make you bisexual. It just means that you don't have you don't have a personal preference. It's not necessarily low self esteem, though. I wouldn't say that. It is personal choice, though. I will say that it is personal choice because I know how to make a hormone. Don't pay her. Well, that's how you make her pissed off. That's not how you make a hormone. Now, when it comes down, because we're going to get back on these words now, when it comes down to um, communication with individuals, the goal isn't to have a clever rehearsed line. It's to ask better questions. Instead of what do you do, try what's the most exciting thing you're working on right now. Instead of how's your night, try what was the best part of your week. These questions invite stories, not just facts. It's how you create a memorable connection, not just an exchange of data. How do you know he isn't bisexual? You don't. How do you know he is, or how do you know he isn't? Well, an individual that is heterosexual can be heterosexual and declare it. An individual that is a closet homosexual can declare heterosexuality and play the part by having wife and kids and still have that desire to be attracted to a man. You don't know. It's not about what his declaration of sexual preference is. It's about what he's willing to do. If he's willing to interact with another guy, it doesn't matter if he's been straight by declaration or by behavioral performance his whole life. If he's willing to make out with his male colleagues on the job and go to house parties and get wasted and have encounters with other guys at the party, he's willing to swing both ways. Now you're gonna label that as being bisexual or label that as I was drunk when it happened. But the fact is that it's a conscious choice. Do you believe that there are cases of biological homosexuality? I do not believe that. Um, well, you said he isn't, so that's why I asked. Oh, do I know that Mike? Me and Michael go way back. I am familiar enough with Michael to know Michael's not. And to the degree from my understandings of science and psychology, I do not believe that there is a naturally born uh, homosexually biological genetic trait. I don't believe that. But my personal belief is not going to make me treat a person with a homosexual choice any different from a heterosexual choice. I just make it clear to them that I do not perform in that fashion. And I am not interested in even experimenting in that fashion. And once I've set my non-negotiable expectations, I can have gay best friends all day long because a gay best friend will show me where the girls are. And forever, even with the ratio of 1-to-1 guys to girls, primarily in the society, for every two guys that date each other, that's two extra girls for me. So if I got two gay best friends, the odds of me getting a girl in this room is three times greater. My success rate just went up 60%. Because not only am I looking for a chick for me, these guys are looking for a chick for me. So I mean, and they're going to speak positively about me. Whereas if I had a heterosexual male best friend in the room, he would be cock blocking, trying to take the same chick that I'm trying to take. He'd be competition. So I mean, it's a benefit to have the gay best friend in the room. So I mean, you just got to understand that. He says, so you learn to be homosexual. Well, it's a choice, and it is a practice. The same way you learn to be Jewish, the same way you learn to be Catholic. You actually have to learn how to interact with females. You have to learn your masculinity. You have to learn femininity. Not a lot of women know how to be feminine. They know how to be sexy, but they don't really know how to be feminine, which is why women approach men masculine and dominate men and think that that's attractive. It's not. But because she has the kind of body that the guy wouldn't mind sleeping with, men will lose their expectations for a feminine woman just to sleep with a hot chick. But her masculinity is a deal breaker for a romantic relationship. It's not a deal breaker for a one night stand, but it's a deal breaker for a long term relationship. There's evidence it can be influenced by hormonal exposure while in utero. Okay. And that hormonal exposure while in utero can lead to the child having more than one gender at birth, and then the parents choosing one of those genders instead of leaving it alone. And in those scenarios, sometimes the parents might have made the wrong choice, and that child grows up with the wrong gender in comparison to what they were born with, and that would lead to the children having um, complications with their sexual preference. Lack of testosterone exposure can impact the prefrontal cortex and other portions of the brain. Okay, but the lack of testosterone is going to lead to the lack of male chromosome, which is, well, not male chromosome, but the lack of male failure, which is going to lead to more of a feminine scenario. So you might have a more masculine woman with excessive testosterone that might be more attracted to uh, a different, yeah, exactly, so you'll have breasts. That's the shortest way to put it. Yes. Think about men in their 70s and 80s when their testosterone levels depreciate and their estrogen levels increase. Those men become more feminine, but that does not mean that while those men are less masculine, less aggressive, less assertive, that does not mean that those men start choosing to date guys. It's still a choice. while we were supposed to be talking about networking, and you have completely changed our conversation to homosexuality. Uh, and be patient, ladies and gentlemen, because when he comes, he either changes it to a conversation about Jews or he changes it to a conversation about homosexuality. But I want to show respect to the homosexual community because, in their defense, uh, there is no difference. There is no difference. They are normal people, but it is still a choice. You're saying I'm talking about gender, but a lack of testosterone is not going to have a guy born as a guy attracted to other guys. A lack of testosterone, a lack of male chromosome might have a uh, female or an underdeveloped male that might be perceived as a female, and then the parents choose to give that because they wanted a girl, give that less developed man a bunch of hormones, estrogen, to force female traits to grow. And then when the female traits grow, then that looks like a female, still attracted to females. And likewise, same scenario where they might have an over exposure to testosterone and showing more masculine traits than feminine traits, and the parents start feeding the child testosterone, starts growing up as a boy. Physical traits based on the parent's choice might lead this female that's looking like a dude to be attracted to other guys because she was born a female. Genetically, genetically, natural instinct to reproduce is going to be where attraction comes from. Desire to procreate. Lust allows us to turn reproduction into entertainment. And then when that happens, it doesn't matter what gender it is. But the natural primal instinct is to repopulate and expand the gene pool. So your subconscious desire is to repopulate. Only through exposure to environmental factors does it change to something not normally seen in nature. Yep, bat wings. He said bat wings. I'm gonna have to use that to play. You don't have to and don't pull the blame on me. Nah, you started the topic. You started the left wing topic, and I'll entertain it briefly. But I'm just being serious. You asked me what I thought about it, and I'm giving you my full understanding of it. And I'm still maintaining my uniform expectations of the scenario because, truth be told, is that it is still a choice. It is a choice that you make. The same way they choose to keep it a secret and live a heterosexual life versus choosing to express themselves and come out and live a homosexual life. It is still a choice. And how do they interact with society utilizing that choice and still be capable of finding love versus going to work and have closing business deals and generating revenue and stuff to that effect? It is still a level of communication that requires you to be more open minded to alternatives that are beyond your individual exclusive desire to find one person that will tolerate who you are and how you behave. And that goes for heterosexual people as well. When we're looking for a romantic partner, we're looking for someone that's willing to put up with our bullshit, the things that we do, the things that we say, the way that we carry ourselves, whether we're lazy, whether we're active, whether we're introverts, whether we're extroverts. We want somebody that's willing to accept how we are, the way we are right now, flaws and all. But in order for you to find that person, that requires you to um, interact with a bunch of people who wouldn't put up with your shit. You have certain levels of interaction, which allows you to level how much exposure you're going to have with certain people based on not only your tolerance level for their behavior, but their tolerance level for your behavior. The people that you're less tolerant to, you spend less time with. The people that are less tolerant of you spend less time with you. He said, Mix, do you live with your mother? We're not going there, Michael. Now, back to the main topic. In networking, this means that you got to do your homework, which is what I'm trying to tell mixed martial arts right now. You have to spend 5 minutes on someone else's LinkedIn page. You have to open yourself up to really um, being ready to receive more information. Start with once you've evaluated their profile photo, you see something about their profile that you like. Now you want to complement that. For example, I really enjoyed that article you wrote on AI. I was interested in your point about whatever whatever they said in that topic that struck your attention. You have immediately validated over 99% uh, of their expectations and vaulted clean over the majority of competition who are starting with, so what do you do? Because you read their bio, you read their posts, you read their content, and then you declared something about the work that they've done that you validate, that you appreciate. In a date, it means reading their profile. If they love hiking, don't ask, do you like hiking? Because that shows you didn't pay attention to their profile. You ask, what's the most epic trail you've ever conquered? First, you're giving off this first impression that is going to be built on pillars such as the visual, that single respect, and the vibe that projects curiosity, and the words that invited the story. Mastering this isn't about being fake, it's about being intentional. And that's what I'm trying to tell mixed martial arts right now. You have to be intentional about your engagements and interactions with other individuals. Um, it's about ensuring that what people see in the first tenth of a second is a compelling preview of the value that you bring. Now, let's talk about the one experience that bends dating and networking and starts to bind them together. Rejection. It's an increasingly common experience. Some surveys show that up to 84% of Gen Zs and millennials have been ghosted. Now, the email that says we've decided to move forward with other candidates, the text that never comes, the promising conversation that turns into a LinkedIn request that just sits there unaccepted forever, the gut punch is identical. And there's a scientific reason for that. fMRI scans show that social rejection activates the very same parts of the brain as physical pain, specifically the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex and the anterior insula. So when you get dumped or passed over for a job, your brain processes it in a way that eerily similar to a physical injury. This is why they say that emotional pain can be manifested in the body as physical pain. That old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, is completely a lie. Your nervous system believes you have been wounded, and this is an involuntary feature, not a bug. For our ancestors, being kicked out of the tribe was a death sentence. It means losing access to food, protection, and mates. So our brain develops an incredible sensitive alarm, social pain, to alert us to do something about this upcoming and pending danger. One of the things that we even see it in the comment section on the podcast when somebody says something reasonably inappropriate, and then I comment about the level of inappropriateness. The uncomfortable and anxious feeling that I might actually block them for what they just said will lead them to immediately apologize and reinforce the fact that they were just kidding in that moment and reduce the quantity of inappropriate comments that they made just to remain included in this group, in this discussion, in this podcast, is triggered from the same primal instinct, which is the reason why I was telling Marshall homosexuality is not a genetically distinctive characteristic. It is a personal choice that is widely accepted, and it is a learned behavior because it has to be practiced. It is not a natural occurrence in society. It is a common behavior more often than it used to be, at least publicized at this time, but it is not a natural occurrence in nature. Two boy dogs aren't seen slapping cheeks on a regular basis. Understand this. The problem is that ancient alarms can't tell the difference between being exiled into the wilderness and being ghosted on Hinge or being blocked off of a YouTube platform. That siren sounds just like that purge alarm, and it is very loud. Understanding this is the first step. The pain you feel is real. It's not you being too sensitive. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. The second step is realizing your first instinctive reaction to that pain is almost always wrong. Well, we tend to personalize rejection, make it about us. We create a narrative of failure with ourselves in the leading role. I'm not smart enough. I'm not attractive enough. There's something fundamentally wrong with me. Me just saying that as I'm explaining to you the examples makes me feel some kind of way. This is a cognitive trap that we subconsciously manifest upon ourselves. As mixed martial arts said, it's the ego, but it's the ego trying to make sense of pain by blaming the most cognitive target, the most easily accessible target, themselves. You can't blame somebody that you don't know, that you've never met in person on social media for you not making contact with 100,000 people over the past 6 months. The only person that you can blame for that is yourself. But the art of resilience in both dating and your career is learning to systematically dismantle this narrative. It's about decoupling your self worth from the outcome. It's also about changing your expectations of the outcome. As I was explaining earlier, your value as a person is constant. The result of the single application or a single date is a variable. They are not the same equation. So, how do you do this? Psychologists point to two strategies: emotion focused coping and problem focused coping. Emotion focused coping is about tending to the wound first. It acknowledges the pain without judgment. When you touch a hot stove, you don't start analyzing its manufacturing process. You pull your hand back and deal with the pain. Run it under cold water, put your finger in your mouth until the pain stops, whatever you decide to do. And this means allowing yourself to feel the disappointment. Go talk to a friend. Come talk to me on a podcast. I'm not going to judge you negatively. Go for a run. The process of evaluating the raw emotion so it doesn't fester into shame or bitterness is the outcome. Acknowledging the feeling. Wow, that stung. That hurt. I'm really disappointed. That made me sad a little bit. Or in modern time terms, I feel some kind of way because of it. In some way, shape, or form, being able to proactively acknowledge your feelings creates the space for more rational responses. Once you've done that, you can shift to problem focused coping. And this is where you transform from the victim into the scientist. And victimizing situations frustrate me a lot. And the reason why I get frustrated about it is because very few individuals take accountability for their actions. Very few individuals take responsibility for their past decisions. It is always somebody else's fault that the initial person is failing at their own personal objectives. And while I'm talking to you about not blaming yourself for being rejected, I'm also recognizing the fact that when you make bad choices, that you have to take accountability for the choice that you made. You cannot first blame somebody else for your failure in life. You have to recognize what you fail to do, because even in these communications where you're being ghosted by people you're interested in but they're not interested in you, your choice in people is a choice that impacted your outcome. You ignored people that were interested in you and focused your attention on people that were not interested in you. And then you wonder why on a dating platform, you're not finding the one. It's because the one that wants you, you don't want. And the one that you want doesn't want you. And you're blaming yourself, rightfully so in that example, for the fact that you can't find somebody because your options aren't as open as they could be. But it's you're not blaming yourself because you're a bad person, because nobody likes you, because uh uh um you're not good enough. That's not the case, but that's what people take it as. It is just that you are not as open to opportunities as you probably could be. You are dismissing potential candidates that you have yet to interview before interviewing them, and you should probably change that expectation. If you stop asking what's wrong with me and start asking what can I do to learn from my process, you turn rejection into data. So instead of like with mixed martial arts was only interested in talking to guys that he think is gay. Well, that limits you from every guy that you didn't think was gay that is actually gay, and you're limiting yourself from every girl that might know a gay guy, which would expand your horizons and expand your opportunity to find that special guy. So if you open your horizons to meeting more people and then utilizing their network to find the person that you are looking for, you now have more opportunity. That's exactly what happens with social media. LinkedIn usually restricts your ability to connect with people that you don't have in your network, that isn't in your contact list. But if you have multiple mutual friends with the person that you're not friends with, it allows you to add that person to your contact list. Now, if you've got 5 or 7 people in your friends list and they've got 20 or 30 people in their friends list, a secondary friend will you could match with that person because that person has you and somebody else as their friend, and you build your network that way. You know somebody in this group and you might know somebody in that group, and that is your ticket into the other group. So let's apply this. You get ghosted after a first date. The personalized story, they thought I was boring. I'm going to be alone forever. I need to find that person to fill the void, right? The data focused approach, okay, let's analyze the process. The data lasted, or the date that we had, it lasted 2 hours. We laughed a lot. I did most of the talking in the last 30 minutes. Maybe I didn't ask enough questions about the other person's trip to Japan. Maybe I came on too strong, suggesting weekend trips next month. I might have been too forceful, pressuring commitment for a second date halfway through the first date. I might have exposed too much expectation for responsibility, emphasizing the desire for long term commitment and lifelong companionship. Okay, data points for the next time. Balance the conversation more. Keep, keep future plans proportionate to the stage of the relationship. You don't get a response to your networking email, a fate shared by many, with some research showing applicants are 3 times less likely to hear back about a role today than a few years ago. The personalized story. This person thinks I'm a nobody. They're laughing at me. The data focused approach is okay, let's analyze the process. I sent the email at 4:30 p.m. on a Friday. The subject line was quick question. The body was 5 paragraphs long and had no clear ask, no clear question. The data points for next time: send outreach emails Tuesday morning. Use a specific subject line. Keep it to 3 sentences and make the ask incredibly easy. Inquire on something that they're capable of responding with. If you can see the shift, in one version, your failure. In the other, your strategist, refining your approach. Every no becomes a lesson. Every rejection becomes free consulting on how to improve yourself. The person who can face 100 rejections and see them not as 100 failures, but as 100 data points is unstoppable. They aren't immune to the pain. The pain is still going to be felt, but they aren't paralyzed by it either. They understand the unspoken rules. Rejection isn't a verdict on your worth, it's feedback on your strategy. So just be yourself. You'll be fine. It's the single most common, well intentioned, and useless piece of advice that has ever been given. The problem with just be yourself is that it assumes that yourself is a fixed, static, universally appealing thing. It's false to account for context, timing, and the fact that building any relationship is a gradual discovery, not a sudden data dump. Nobody wants all of yourself on the first date. So if you're talking too much about yourself, you're probably going to lose that other person. And they don't want to know everything about what you got going on in the first meeting either. They don't want to hear about your childhood trauma or your weird rash in a secluded location. Presenting your unfiltered self right out of the gate isn't authentic, it's overwhelming. It shows a lack of social awareness. This is an authenticity paradox. In the quest to be genuine, we often overshare and push people away. So, what is real authenticity? It's radical, unfiltered transparency, limited information, though. It's consistency. It's ensuring your words, your actions, and your values are all aligned. It's about presenting the best, most relevant version of yourself for a situation without misrepresenting who you are. So you might have to expose some flaw. You might find yourself reasonably late more often than you're on time. And you can make it clear: I don't keep a good schedule because I find myself late for my podcast every night. But I make myself on time for most of the engagements that are the most important for me, right? How do I prioritize my time? I can easily tell them that I'm early for the things that mean the most to me and I'm late for the things that don't. Now, how are they going to take that down the line in a relationship when I'm late for our anniversary, but early for work? They're going to be offended by that. Can I say something came up on the job? No, because true to nature, I prioritize the expectations from my work over my personal life. So I got to work early. I stayed at work late. I came to the anniversary appointment, dinner, date, whatever, late because I left work late because the demands of the job was more important to me in that moment than the date. The money that I get from closing this deal was more important to me than the date. The promotion that I'm negotiating right now was more important to me than the date. So, not misrepresenting myself, for everything that I value the most, I am early, if not on time. And everything I have less value to, I'm reasonably late for. Researcher Brené Brown's work on vulnerability has revolutionized how we think about this. Now, she's defined vulnerability as um, uncertainty risk and emotional exposure. But, and this is the part most people miss, vulnerability without non negotiable expectations isn't vulnerability. She's clear that trust has to be earned, even though trust is given. And then positive behavior towards the trust that was given is the maintenance of trust. People say trust is earned and it is built in small moments over time. It is initially given as a part of mutual respect, and then it is enhanced based on the success of maintenance and manifesting that trust. The same way you increase your credit score after a credit company gives you an introductory credit limit. They give you an introductory level of trust, even if that introductory level of trust is a secured credit card that's backed by your assets. When you apply for a credit increase, that credit increase comes from your ability to prove that you are capable of maintaining that line of credit, not because you earned a higher level of credit. You understand? They gave it to you because you were capable of maintaining the previous level of credit. You were able to babysit one child for a long period of time. Now I got two kids. You were able to drive my car without crashing it. You drive it by yourself without crashing it. I can trust you to come get me in my car. But I only trust you to come get me with my car because I watched you drive my car with me in it. I trust you to come get me with my car because I allowed you to take my car and bring it back to me before. I don't just trust you to take my car first time I meet you and believe that you're going to bring me my car back. That's not guaranteed. You earned that because initially I gave you the keys and let you drive because I couldn't. And then you proved to me that you wasn't going to crash my car. And then every other time I gave you my keys, you proved to me that you wasn't going to crash my car. And then when you are now trusted to take my car, do what you got to do and bring it back, that is an earned level of trust after the initial level of trust that was maintained. So don't believe what they tell you when they say that trust is earned. It's given before it's earned. It's just maintained after the fact. And if you fail to maintain it, it is lost forever. There's going to always be a level of doubt and resentment and negative judgment for the breach of trust, even if they maintain loyalty, dedication, and duty towards you. Think of it like a video game. You don't face the final boss on level one. You unlock achievements, you gain experience points, you learn how to play the game. Let's a simple model for this, a kind of graduated vulnerability. Try the first encounter, first date or first meeting. The goal here isn't to bare your soul. The goal is to share your passion. Passions are safe, but they are still deeply personal and revealing. Dating example. Instead of saying I'm really lonely and anxious about my future, you say I've gotten really into landscape photographs lately. There's something about waking up before dawn to capture that perfect light that just makes me feel alive. Networking example. Instead of I hate my job and I'm desperate to get out, you say I'm really passionate about the shift towards sustainable packaging. I've been following the innovations at your company and I find the work incredibly exciting. In both cases, you're being authentic. You're showing your why that you are making the change, not your wounds that is compelling you to make your change. Level two is going to be building rapport, a third date or a follow up coffee. Now it's time to share relatable struggles or a lesson learned. Now, this is a small, controlled crack in the armor that signals I am human and I am self aware. For example, I might perceive myself as excessively professional on a regular basis, but I'll entertain an inappropriate joke from time to time. I might perceive myself as um, a very successful individual, but I would admit to those people that make mistakes in front of me that I do make mistakes. That way they understand I know that I am not perfect. And one of the reasons why I'm excessively lenient on you is because I know that I'm not perfect. So if I'm going to make mistakes, I know everybody's going to make mistakes. The topic of past relationships that come up, oversharing, would be listing your ex's faults, listing the number of exes you had. A strategically vulnerable response is my last relationship taught me how important clear communication is, which shows that you've learned something because you would be able to follow up with I learned that I have a tendency to avoid tough conversations. And that's something that I'm actively working on. So you're not necessarily conflict avoidant, but you would prefer not to be in a conflictual conversation. When your partner asks you a tough conversational question on that third date and you navigate around it and then redirect yourself back to answering that question, it shows that, as you said, you're not good with these tough questions, but you're proactively working on it. A networking example, someone asks you about a career path. Instead of complaining about a terrible old boss, you say, one of my most valuable experiences was at my first job. I was thrown into a project with very little guidance, and frankly, I was in over my head, but it forced me to learn how to be resourceful and not be afraid to ask for help. It was a trial by fire, but I'm grateful for the lesson. This type of sharing shows you're human, fallible, and resilient. It builds connections based on shared imperfection. Everybody knows that they have been on at least one job in their life where the training process, the probation phase, where you're getting less than the salary that they promised you, is always a baptismal by fire style scenario where you are just clocking in. They have you start work. There is no explanation on what you're supposed to do. They expect you to know. And if you don't know, you only ask questions about what you don't know. And sometimes this is partially your fault because in your application, you made it seem like you knew what to do and they would not require much explanation. So once you got on the job, they thought you knew what you needed to know in order to perform the task. And then you found out yourself that that is not altogether true. Now, before you ask your boss for the proper guidance that you need because they hired you, you're now leaning over to a colleague here and there, trying not to look bad on your first few weeks of work, asking them how to run the system. And as you get that initial input from other colleagues, you learn not only how to navigate the software, you also learn how to navigate the work field, which allows you to navigate the communication in the job that you just got so that you don't fail via communication. Level three is going to be establish the trust. And when you're establishing trust in relationships as well as mentorships, we're going to be covering this now. This is where deeper vulnerability and appropriate communication exists. You have shared experiences. The other person has proven they are trustworthy, meaning you initially gave them trust. You opened up with vulnerability and they did not abuse that information by mocking you or spreading that information around. Now they have proven that you can trust them. Now you can share more of your fears and your challenges. This is the level that cements a deep bond. Trying to jump straight into level three is what derails most promising connections. Skipping over what's your last name and talking about your probation case, or skipping over um, fundamental goals and going straight to the child support and child custody dramas. You're opening up too much on phase one. This framework is the antidote to the transactional feeling that plagues both networking and dating. The person who only calls when they need something is stuck on a broken version of level one. They see people as resources to be extracted, not relationships to be cultivated. Authenticity isn't a performance of realness, it's the patient, deliberate practice of revealing the right parts of yourself at the right time to build a bridge of trust. So much of this comes down to reframing the stories we tell ourselves. So I'm genuinely curious to hear from all of you guys. What is the biggest mental shift that you have made when dealing with rejection, whether it was in your career or your love life? Make sure you guys take the time to drop that information into the comments, because your stories might be the exact refrain someone else needs to hear. Now, if dating and networking runs on the same psychological engine, then there must be a universal toolkit. Practical, learnable skills that make you better at both. Practicing them in one area of your life directly improves the other. So let's focus on the three most critical: active listening, the art of follow up, and setting non negotiable expectations for behavior. Now, in working on these critical um, skills, you will be able to find yourself more effectively improving your network and your networking skills. First, active listening. Most of us don't listen at all. We just wait for our turn to talk. And some people like to bring in the most inconvenient time, the most inappropriate comments. We wait just to be heard. Research shows that while people spend up to 55% of their day listening, they only retain about 25% of the information. We're so busy formulating our own brilliant response that we miss the real meaning of what is being said. That's passive hearing. You notice how some people who come from a psychological analyzation scenario really distinctively decipher the difference between listening to somebody and hearing them, right? I heard you, I just wasn't listening. And depending on the person, I was listening, but I didn't hear nothing that you said. Active listening is a full contact sport. It means being fully present. It can increase productivity by up to 25% and cut misunderstandings by 40%. It means your phone is out of sight, not in your hands. You're not playing a video game while you're talking to them. You're not scrolling through social media while you're talking to them. It means that you do three things: reflect and clarify. You what you've heard, not just repeat word for word what they just said. So if I'm hearing you right, the biggest challenge is, or it sounds like you felt really, and then finish the sentence. This makes the other person feel profoundly understood. If you just ask a question only using the last three words of what somebody said, like, for example, um, we're talking about networking, and I tell you that today's show is explaining how networking in business life is the same or can be the same as networking in a business life. And you respond with networking in business and personal life, you're not listening. You're not hearing me. You are just restating the last three key words that I said out of that whole statement. Responding with how do you plan to discuss the difference or similarities between networking in both dating and the business place is showing that you clearly understood what I said. And you're following up with the next step, which is ask deeper questions. Your question should build on what was just said. If they mention a stressful week, a passive hearer changes the subject. An active listener asks, what made it so stressful? Is the typical for this time of year? Is typical for this time of year? Because you have seasonal stress where work increases because we're coming up on Halloween, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, we're coming up on Christmas, and certain types of seasonal jobs, seasonal companies are having an increase in workload, which makes the job stressful because you still have to move at the same productivity speeds with sometimes less help and more responsibility. It shows that you're engaged in the story. Remember the details. A person's name is the sweetest sound to them. And to me, it shows that you're listening. Because, for example, if you work at a call center, if you use the name that's on the screen, that means you don't remember what I said. Because the name that I give you is not the name that you have in your system. So if you're not paying attention to what I said, you're not going to remember what my name is. So if you use the name that I gave you, then that shows me that you're listening to who I said I am. So are the names of their kids, their dogs, or that big project that they're worried about important? Yes. When you walk up on John, and it's good to see you again, John. How's Annie and the kids? Was Mark's soccer game doing well? Did Allie get an award with her recital? What happened with that um, contract with Tesla? Did you get the deal? When you meet someone and they mention they're training for a marathon, remembering that as a game changer. It makes the connection personal. If they're one of those Relay for Life participants, and you know this, Relay for Life should just be coming up right now for Breast Cancer Month, and it should last all the way through March in different cities, different states, at different times. If you know that somebody runs through sponsorships for some type of charity event, and you remind them that their charity event is coming up and you offer to sponsor them, you show them that you care about what's important to them. Making someone feel like they are the only person in the room is the most powerful connection tool that you have. That is the gift of active listening. And with active listening, you're going to have a lot of memory training. You have to remember what people say. A lot of times, you might have to take notes when people talk to you after you've walked away from the conversation. You might have to write down all of the most important things that you can remember out of that discussion. You have cell phones now. You have a note app on the phone. You can jot down, hey Siri, and write this down. Hey Google, and write this down. Hey Alexa, make a note about. And then later, when you go home, catalog all the information that you've gotten from all of these individuals. Then, before you go to meet that person, pull up their file. What do you know about them? What have they accomplished in life? What have they told you about them? And then when you go to meet that person, you're regurgitating what you've learned about them. It's almost like what you see on those cop TV shows. Oh, I read your jacket. They sit down the suspect and they go over all of that person's criminal charges as if they know them. I'm sitting over here like shit. If I was up here being interrogated and you start going over whatever rap shit you think you know about me, you lost me, because if you knew me, you would know that I don't talk about my past. So if you're talking about my past, especially in a negative light, you have lost me. The intimidation factor doesn't work for me, because at the end of the day, I am receiving the threat of you're using my past as leverage, and I don't conform to leverage. I follow this mentality that I don't succumb to what I would perceive as terrorist attacks. I don't negotiate with that. So when you're talking about an unconditional surrender or a forfeiture of an unlawful forfeiture of information, it's like, if you know I know something, then charge me for withholding that information. But I mean, if I am voluntarily here, I am not under arrest. I ain't got no information for you. Whatever, if I was a witness and I was testifying to some shit, that's all the information that you get. If I am a suspect, I ain't got nothing to say. Likewise, in a positive light, if you're negotiating with somebody else, if you know that they've been on a job for 20 years and you congratulate them on the 20 years that they've been on a job, they don't know you from Adam, but you know enough about them to know that they've been doing this for a long time. If they've closed on different projects or big deals, you are able to recognize their accomplishments. That makes them feel important. Second, the art of the follow up. You don't just engage people for the sake of engaging them the first time to say, look, that conversation happened. The meeting or the date isn't the end, it's supposed to be the beginning. That's what I was telling mixed martial arts. The first encounter is not supposed to be the last encounter. The follow up is where connections is either solidified or evaporated. And it's shockingly rare. One study found 34% of job candidates don't hear back from employers even 2 months after applying. If you don't reach out, you're forgotten. The rules are simple, and they're the same for both relationships and dating. Be timely. The old 3-day rule is dead. We used to say wait 72 hours to communicate and see what. You don't want to be too anxious. The modern rule of follow up is within 24 hours. So if you meet a girl at your job and you say that you're going to give her a call, you don't wait 3 days, you don't wait 3 weeks. Call her ass tomorrow. It shows enthusiasm and respect while the conversation is still fresh. And don't just text her, a legitimate phone call. Reference a specific detail. A generic, great to meet you is always forgettable. A powerful follow up reference uh, allows a specific point of connection. Dating text. Hey, had a fantastic time last night. I'm still laughing about your uh, disastrous baking story. Hope you have a great day. A network email. Hi, whatever their name is. Pleasure connecting yesterday. I especially enjoyed our conversation about remote work. As promised, here is that article I mentioned on hybrid teams. This proves that you were listening, that you heard about their needs, that you were listening to their desires, and you took action upon that. The goal is conversation, not conversions, which is what I was trying to get mixed martial arts to think about earlier today, is that the goal is not to lock down a partner from first contact. The goal is to initiate conversation and the possibility for continued conversation that might lead to the conversion of a guaranteed relationship. The immediate goal isn't the second date or the job. It is to continue this conversation until such time as you end up with the date or the job. End your messages with light, open ended questions. Let me know what you think of the article. It invites a response without pressure. The third setting is going to be non negotiable expectations for behavior. And this might sound counterintuitive, but good expectations that are set are what make healthy relationships possible. They are about mutual respect. In dating, this means being clear about your intentions. If you're not interested in seeing someone again, the kindest thing you can do is communicate that politely rather than ghosting them. So you went out on the date, they paid for it. The date was all right, but it could have been because of the type of conversation that you had, because of the information that you found out about the other person. It could have been because they took a break during a date and went and smoked a cigarette. It could have been because that person bought too many drinks of alcohol during the date. They could have been too distracted by their phone. They could have been streaming the phone, the date, taking too many pictures of the food, whatever the reason was that turns you off. You could be clear about it at the end of that engagement while you're still looking at each other face to face because it is more mutually respectful to break off future engagements with the person face to face than it is to do it over the phone, via text message, or distant email, or social media posts. Studies show the pain of being ghosted is more profound and long lasting than a direct rejection because of the lack of closure that the other person receives, which in a lot of situations requires the person to continue circling back, begging for the closure that they never got, which frustrates you because if you're trying to move on without them and they're lingering due to the lack of closure, your next relationship can now be negatively impacted by your last relationship. Your next business deal could be negatively impacted by your last business deal. Your current job opportunity could be getting negatively impacted by your old boss still trying to call you in on your day off when you're trying to get a new job. A simple, I had a really nice time, but I don't feel a romantic connection. I wish you all the best is a good way to go. Or and they're gonna ask you, why? What happened? This is the beginning of providing closure and respect their energy, but explaining to them exactly what turns you off during this engagement is a constructive criticism that allows them to understand what deterred you, which allows them to improve for the next person. In networking, it means not being a taker. Don't spam new contacts with requests. Your initial interaction should be about providing value, not extracting it. Instead of, can you help me get a job? Try sending something useful. Based on our conversations, I thought you might find this industry reporting interesting. You build relationship capital first. If you're trying to find something that is hard to attain, you communicate with the people that you believe have the most accessibility to it. Then you make it a priority to find out what they need so that they benefit from your existence. During your interactions with them, you're able to get the information that you need from them to achieve the unattainable. If they are the gatekeeper to your success, first you have to confirm and verify that they are the gatekeeper to your success. Then, what do I have to do to get you to open the gate? Clearly, getting you to open a gate requires me to have you step away from the gate. Having you step away from the gate requires me to provide you with what you need so that you can entertain yourself with your needs. And now the gate is unmanned. You see it in the cartoons where they trick the person and provide them with a meal and sneak past them, or distract them with something and sneak past them. It's exaggerated animations of exactly the same real life tactics. If you know that a CEO in a company that you're trying to apply for is on a bowling team, you might buy him a custom bowling ball. He's not expecting that, but he's going to value you over the other people who didn't know that. The same way, a company might value your skill set. They might not give you a raise, but they might lend you a company car. They know you need a car. They know that they're making a bunch of money off of you. And instead of you stressing about not having adequate transportation to get to work, or being late for work, or being incapable of performing at work because of being exhausted after you got to work, they provide you with a company car. Now you can perform better at work. Instead of them telling you to work harder, they incentivize you by saying, at your current position, you qualify for a company car. I did something for you. Now in return, you're gonna bust your ass to keep that car. As long as you keep this job, you keep that car. Now, these three skills, active listening, following up, and setting non negotiable expectations for behavior, form a virtuous cycle. You master this toolkit and you master the art of building genuine, lasting connection in every part of your life. For so long, we've been told to have a work self, but that ignores the one constant in every equation, the human brain. The same anxiety that makes your palms sweat before the first date is the same anxiety that surfaces before a big interview, or before a big important business meeting, or before a huge contract signing, or before a settlement in a civil action, or before the judgment on a criminal case. The sting of rejection and the thrill of connection are universal. The operating system is the same. Success in both arenas hinges on the same things: navigating first impressions, first observations, developing resilience to rejection, and learning to be authentic without oversharing. It's about being brave enough to be vulnerable in measured ways, disciplined enough to listen more than you talk, the way we just experienced in the comment section with Miss Martial Arts, and consistent enough to build trust over time. So stop thinking of it as networking or dating. Those are just labels for the venue. Start thinking of it as connecting, because the person who masters genuine human connection, who understands the deep psychological aspects of trust, resilience, and rapport, has a compass that works everywhere. They have the key that fits any lock. And they're not just building careers or relationships, they're building a meaningful life. Because one of the things that not a lot of people think about, but everybody knows, is that more often than not, you make friends on the job. You find relationships on the job. More often than not, you find business opportunities amongst your friends. You find business opportunities amongst your romantic partners. Your business life impacts your social life the same way your personal life impacts your employment life, which is why here on This and That, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between, I provide you guys with the information that you need to improve your business life, your professional life, your ability to make money for you, to make yourselves higher value men, to make you ladies higher value women. And then the other half of the week, I'm providing you with individual information to improve your personal life so that you can better your decision making in your personal life, so that you're not making negative decisions that cost you money, that cost you to need more money from your employer, which requires you to demand more money from your employer, which strains your employment relationship. Bad financial decisions don't necessarily have to be wasting money on insignificant things. It could be collateral damage towards a bad choice. Crashing your car from texting and driving now gives you a repair bill. It gives you a deductible with your insurance. That extra money that you have to pay on something that you otherwise would not have had to pay for takes money out of your discretionary spending, which requires you now to go make more money from somewhere else, which requires you now to pressure your boss to give you more hours or give you a raise. Even though you might get a rental car from your car your car insurance, you still got to put extra gas in that car. They might cover a percentage of it, but you still got to cover the rest of it. You still got to detail that son of a bitch before you bring it back. It might have worse gas mileage than your actual vehicle. There are things that you got to do. If you lose your cell phone because you are not paying attention to what you were doing with your cell phone, the carelessness of handling your cell phone could cost you to spend extra money on replacing your cell phone, replacing phone numbers, losing out on contacts. Might require you to change your number, which requires you now to contact everybody of value and notify them that this is your new number. Losing your wallet sometimes causes you to lose the rent money, which sometimes causes you to get an extension on the rent, which causes you to have to pay extensions on the rent. Making bad choices, making bad decisions, going to the wrong place and being involved in the wrong thing at the wrong time with the wrong people could lead you to spending unnecessary capital on the wrong stuff, which then leads you to a situation where now you have to proactively fix a problem that you wasn't ready to fix. That cost you more money. Now you have to work harder to make more money or stretch your money a lot further. If you proactively work towards making better personal life decisions and proactively making better or more strategic business life decisions, you'll find yourself in a situation where you're less stressed out in both arenas, navigating the things that you can control, making the changes out of the things that you can control, where those things are more effectively better for you, and then proactively working around the things that are outside of your control. Because it's not just it is what it is and I have to deal with it. It is what you make of it. And that requires you to do more, be more in a way where you're benefiting from this. All of this leads to a higher value for yourself, not just how society values you. Because, truth be told, society actually can value you as an underdog on how you thrive in chaos. And it also value you on your ability to have an overabundance of resources. Self-made individuals are individuals that struggled from the bottom and made their way up to the top, regardless of the hurdles they had to overcome. And the admiration for that type of drive, that type of ambition, that type of motivation stems from not only your inability to refuse to give up, but your ability to always look for another way. That is a characteristic that is highly valuable in relationships and in business. Never quitting, never giving up, always finding another way and eventually achieving what you are aiming to achieve. That's what a lot of people look for. So, with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. Tomorrow, we got another good story coming up for you. Actually, tomorrow, I think we're going to be talking about some of the new things that have popped up about DUIs. So, we're going to be talking about some stuff this week. Make sure that you guys like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hit that follow button from Twitter and Twitch. And then make sure that you swing by tomorrow night because we're going to be reasonably on time, usually 5 or 10 minutes late in comparison to the scheduled time that you see on the show. And I want to thank you guys. Before we walk out, ladies, I want to say real quick, because I got to say this every day, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to have to keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, we're still running about 65% male-driven podcast from the male's perspective. So I want you guys to keep learning and growing and keep coming back every day of the week to the best of your ability. And for those of you that are watching us on Twitch and Twitter, If you're watching us in the background because you got other things to do, I encourage you to at least come and listen, if nothing else. But remember, this is a highly interactive podcast. So if you're here and you're enjoying the topic, especially if you're here for the full 3 hours and 20 minutes, you're enjoying the topic, take the time to interact in the topic. You can put your own insight in, or you can ask some questions yourself because you can learn too. Because there's something that you're thinking about that needs to be said, and you're not the only person with that thought. And if you put that in and we're able to discuss it, then not only will you get insight that helps you resolve your concerns and help you find an alternative way, it also gives somebody else who didn't have as much courage as you to speak up the ability to learn the same thing. So never be afraid on this podcast to come in appropriately and discuss almost anything under the sun. We had to talk about mixed martial arts because mixed martial arts comes with the same two topics every time it comes. And typically, when we're hitting a nail on the head on a very important, very meaningful topic, that's the day that he typically comes up with it. Usually every Thursday. So I had to remind him that your train of behavior over the past 4 months is to talk about the exact two same topics every Thursday. When I told him, hey, your free for all day to ask outrageous questions is on Sunday, but questions related to the topic at hand, probably should throw that in there on the day that topic is up. He hasn't learned yet. However, I show him the respect to entertain the conversation because somebody does have that question and somebody does want to know about it. So I'm not going to devalue the questions themselves because there are no stupid questions in life. They're just inappropriate times to ask some of them. But we're live 7 nights a week. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're talking about business and finance. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're talking about personal development and relationships. And Sunday is the day for the free-for-all questioning. Questions and comments from the fans, no matter what it is that you want to talk about, that's the day that you throw up all the questions. So the questions that Mixed Martial Arts brought up today are Sunday night questions, not Thursday night questions. It's not wrong for him to ask it. It's just today wasn't the day to ask. So keep that in mind as we move forward, because I encourage you guys to ask whatever you're going to ask, because I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer, and I'm going to show you respect when I answer. But take the time to give it a shot. Because again, in networking, the first thing you got to do is actively listen and then proactively ask involved questions to learn more about the situation. If you're practicing that with me here on social media, you can better improve your skill set so that when you start proactively doing it in real life, in your day-to-day operations, you have had plenty of practice because we're here a few hours a night, every night of the week. You're getting like 21 hours a week of free life coach for free. So I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see
Chase validation, now I validate myself. That's my personal command. I'm not now higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos.